Edgewood Drive, south of Lake Hollingsworth in Lakeland, Florida, just opposite the end of Nevada Avenue.
Okay. Were all four of you born there?
The four older ones are born there, all four.
Tell us about some of the neighbors you had there.
Well, the first neighbors that I knew about was the Barretts, my mother's parents. They lived about eighth of a mile south of us. The others were the Bennett family. I remember when I was about 3 years old, my dad let me walk with him over there, but he had to carry me most of the way. Clifford, Thomas Clifford, I think was his first name, lived up on top of the hill, which is, that location is now across the golf course from our place. Others I can't think of the name right now.
Okay. Did you ever attend church or school at the old Hollingsworth School?
I don't remember that I did. My memories of that are basically from photographs that my parents had. Our attendance was at Southside Baptist Church at least as early as 1923, and I was only 3 years old.
How about, tell us about the special holidays you remember.
Just a few vague memories from, I suppose, my third Christmas. That's about all I remember. There was a little wind-up train and track to go with it.
That was your Christmas present?
That was apparently for one of us. I don't know whether it was for Ralph or for me.
Did you all play with it? Why was that special?
I don't know. It just sticks in my mind.
How old were you when you moved to Cruise Lake?
I've tried to figure that out to be sure of it. I think I was just ready to turn 4. I think in 1924 is when we moved out there. If it was in the first part of May of 1925, well then I was almost 5.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember even when Dad poured the foundations for the new house. And even before that, he took me on a fishing trip. And when we got halfway around the lake, he pointed up to the bunch of trees and said, "That's where I'm going to build us a house."
What else do you remember about the move?
Well, the Model T Ford tried to go across a creek that was a little bit high and got the front wheels through and the back wheels stopped. And here we were with water up almost to the seat in the back of the Model T. We had to sit there until Dad could go after help to get pulled out.
How long did you have to sit there?
I suppose a half hour, maybe longer. As far as the move, that's the most basic part.
Do you remember the first Hollingsworth gang coming to Cruise Lake?
Not necessarily the first one. There were a number of them. I have a picture that I count about 140 people in. We had our picnic out in the yard.
Who were the Hollingsworth gang?
Hollingsworth gang was simply the part of the neighborhood that lived east and south of Lake Hollingsworth that attended church. Some of the younger ones attended school and the schoolhouse building.
Okay, Ann wants to know, tell us about Marion or Flo getting lost and the dog who helped find her.
It was Florence after we moved out to Cruise Lake, and she was big enough to toddle off by herself, and our white collie Bessie followed her. When finally we found her, it was because Bessie let us know where she was. She was in the grove to the east.
Out of the lake.
Ralph, you'll get your turn tomorrow. He has the phone.
Tomorrow, same time, same station.
Same question tomorrow. Well, yeah, I guess we can if we have time. Okay, let's see. Tell about the time Mama and Daddy, Marion, Flo, and Ann went on a trip. Ralph and Willard left to take care of the farm.
I believe that was 1937.
No, it wasn't. It was 37, because I was just born. Go ahead, Willard.
Willard, you tell what you remember.
You're right.
But I remember
This ain't fair.
it was in the summer after Anne was born in February.
Correct.
And they went to Rockford, Illinois, where Mother's older sister, Jenny, Mrs. Walter Lutzow, lived with her 5 children, I believe it was at that time. And that was the first leg out of a 3-leg journey. They went from there to New England and back to Pennsylvania to the Barrett establishment, and then on back home again.
And then you were left to take care of the farm. Did anything happen?
I don't remember that there was anything special. We learned very well how to make
Well, his tail.
egg custard. We loved it.
You both just taught each other how to make it?
I don't remember that part. We had it frequently.
Okay. Tell us what you remember about the deaths of our grandparents.
The deaths
Yeah.
of our grandparents. I do not remember a whole lot. They lived next to Aunt Olive and Uncle Grover over northwest side of Lakeland, and in a little house on Uncle Grover's property. And we did not have constant contact with them. I'm not sure of the dates. That's in the records, whatever it is. I believe Grandmother Pearce, she wouldn't like that. Was the first one to die, but there wasn't a lot of time between the two.
How old were they?
No. Her father lived with Uncle Grover and Aunt Olive. He was 88 when he died, and it was along about the same time, plus or minus a year or two. The records would show just exactly the dates. He had had a stroke and was bedridden for the last few weeks or months. I don't remember.
How old were you?
Well, I would be in my middle teens to hit the middle year for the death of these 3 people.
Does anyone know why and how the Pearce family came to Florida?
I do not know the details. I know that they were in Iowa in the mid-1850s. They moved to Syracuse, New York for about 6 years, I believe, and after his father died, they came south in 1882 and had a land grant for considerable property out in the boondocks in Putnam County, south of Pulaski. There was later, or perhaps at that time already, a post office, Syracuse, Florida. The exact location I don't know, but I do remember Dad talking about his grandfather his father or grandfather, having a general store. And I would guess, since my dad's grandfather had postal experience, post office experience, had been postmaster in Iowa, I suppose that he was the one that set up the Syracuse, Florida post office. I cannot be sure.
Tell about Uncle Bob's accident.
Uncle Bob was substituting for another engineer or fireman, whichever it was at the time, on the train that ran through Lakeland and up Auburndale to Sanford, probably to Jacksonville. There was a man who was apparently hard of hearing, an older driver who did not stop at a railroad crossing near Auburndale, Florida, and ran in front of the train. The car was thrown against the switch through the tracks so that the train ran off the main line this was in 1932, plus or minus a year. I think that was the right year.
31.
For 31, on the 1st of July. And I was, I had turned 11.
Tell us about when Mama was so sick.
There was a year after extensive, difficult times when Mom did the housework and worked in the fields during the rest of the day, that she had a nervous breakdown, according to the name that I heard. It was about a year that she was not able to do very much work. There was, and Marion and Ralph stayed out of school that year, and gradually she got better. There was another time when she had an internal eating sore that put her in bed for extensive time. And she prayed for the. She asked the pastor and the deacons to come to pray for her. And sometime later, not immediately, quite some time later, we came home from school one day, and she was radiant with joy, because suddenly that afternoon, as she sat on the back porch steps, she had felt that she was healed, and from then on she was healed of whatever the sore was inside. My supposition is that it was cancer. I do not know. An internal eating sore is all that I heard.
But it went away.
It was gone, and it was after that that Ann and Alice were born. So we can call Ann and Alice miracle babies, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, she lost a lot of weight when she came back.
I do not know.
Why did we go to Virginia?
Dad was working in the shipyards as a carpenter, and school was out, and I was headed for college, for graduate school at Wisconsin, and it was just a natural thing that they should go to Virginia and live where Dad was. He found a place that was livable, and so I took them up there, or we all went up together, Mom and the girls and I. Then I went back to take care of the livestock and live at home and go to summer school at Florida Southern College, which I had graduated from, but I did need further another course in order to meet the requirements for graduate school.
When did you get your degrees in?
My degree, bachelor's degree, was in physics and math, and at Wisconsin, physics and math for my master's. Then I dropped the math and went over to astronomy for my doctorate, physics and astronomy.
Tell us what you remember about your high school years.
Well, they were years of a lot of study. We were riding the bus, of course, and I had no contact as far as the sports go or anything of that sort, except in my final year, my physics teacher loaned me a baritone horn, and so I could join the band, and I had a chance to be with the band and make some, you might say, extracurricular activities with that. But it was only for the final year, half of the year.
So was your favorite teacher the saxophone teacher?
No, I don't.
Who was your favorite?
My favorite teacher, I would say, was Bob Jewett, the one who loaned me the baritone horn.
Baritone, okay. That's saxophone, okay. Who were your best friends? High school.
Son of the librarian, I've forgotten their names. I'm sorry.
Okay. Did you take part in any school activities?
No, we did not have the desire or the freedom to stay after school.
can you tell us any of your memories about aunts, uncles, or cousins, or any other family members that you recall?
You got a lot of tape in that thing?
We have a while.
Well, I'll go back first to the previous generation. My dad's mother's father, William Henry Beasley, I remember quite well. He stayed with us at different times. The first time I know he had a long white beard to go with his white hair. Mom kept teasing about it, looking so much younger if he had cut it off. Finally he did. And that was probably around 1930 when I was 10. A little earlier perhaps the first time. I think he came and stayed 2 different times. And I would go to the Barrett family, my mother's parents. Grandpa Barrett was not the kind of man that we would have fun with. I mean, he treated us fine, but we didn't get close to him. And I found out as time went on that there wasn't fellowship between him and Mom. He had gotten into the occult, would have a medium come over from Tampa once a week to hold a seance in the living room of their home. So we were not permitted to stay and visit over Tuesday except once. Then it was under definite promise that we'd stay in the bedroom while they were having their carryings on. And he died cursing the name of Christ, so I do not expect to see him. The other 3 grandparents I do expect to see, and great-grandpa Beasley, godly man, often would lead in prayer at our family devotion time, and I really have no question that he's a saved man in heaven waiting for him.
Well, thank you, Willard. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Close relationship with uncles and aunts and cousins. Take a long time to try to describe it in detail. I don't suppose it would add very much. I remember when some of them were born. Pauline and Sylvie were older. Wayne and Warren were about the same age. I remember when Mary Lou and Claire were born. On the Barrett side, I guess Eloise was the only one that I remember when Ruth was just learning to talk. They lived there next to us at Cruise Lake, little house that later Uncle Will and Auntie lived in until Aunt Lizzie died. And Uncle Will lived with us for a while, and then Grandma Barrett permitted the modification of what had been a chicken house into a rather livable place, and Uncle Will lived there until his death.
Just for the record, Willard, what's your birth date? How old are you now?
May 7th, 1920 was my birthday, and anybody can figure out my age according to when they look at the tapes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Willard. Cut.
And thank you, Pat. Yeah, you did
Thank
great.
That was real interesting.
Is there, if you want my interview, I'll give it to you right now.
Okay, come on, Ralph.